What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. My name is Jonas, and with me, as always, is my main man, Mr. David Fuchs. David,
Yeah,
CFP is over. I can take a breath. I have my life back for a little bit before the next
yeah,
CFP starts.
I'm happy for you.
Yeah, I'm happy for me. I'm going to the beach, baby.
You
Joe's
should.
going to the beach. But I want to talk about um, one of the harder things to kind of talk about and think about is everybody that was ready for the exam had the knowledge. They got into the exam room, and oh boy, things went
Yeah,
in the complete opposite direction. They felt the lights got hot, and under pressure, the entire game changed.
yeah. I mean, well, I'm like curious to hear from you. Like, do you think that if you're if you're ready for the exam, that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna pass it because you still have to go through and actually perform. But like, how often? I'm just curious because you work with a lot of people that take this exam. How often do you find it where one of your students or somebody that you know that's taking it that you've know their knowledge on the topics, are you like they're ready to pass the exam, like I fully expect them to pass it, and then you find out that they fail it? Like how common is that?
Very, 15 to 20% of students that I probably work with are knowledge ready, but then the exam gets the best of them.
So then it's really just it's not about them not knowing the material or not about them putting in the work. It's more about them just for lack of a better word, it's really just about them folding under pressure.
Yeah, when I was Olympic weightlifting, in my first couple years, you know, when it came for whatever reason, like, when it came to basketball, I was a good competitor. I wasn't a great competitor. I was a good competitor. But towards the end of me playing basketball, I got better and better as a competitor. And when I started lifting weights and I started competing, initially I was very good, but I didn't have a lot of skin in the game. But then when I started really kind of dedicating myself and training, I felt the lights. I started turning into a bit of like a wreck when it came time to go perform. And for whatever reason, it was right at the end of college. There's something that flipped. It was me. And one of the things my coach was he's like, look, you're just gonna start competing once a month because we got to address this. Right. And he didn't necessarily tell me that, like, that's what we were doing, but you kind of have a sense of what was going on. I wasn't an idiot, but he was like, you're going to compete every 4 weeks. I was like, I don't want to compete. He's like, I don't care. You're competing every 4 weeks. And once a month, like clockwork, I would go and compete. And sometimes I was preparing for the competition and sometimes I wasn't. But the whole point was getting me comfortable with the process of competing.
Yeah.
And that first competition was okay. And the second competition was a little bit better. And the third one was a little bit better. By the fourth, fifth, and sixth, now 6 months in a row of competing every month, it was just now it started to feel like, okay, like this is not. And then right at the end of that year, it was probably 10, 12 competitions in. Like it went from like me worried about the competition to me wanting to absolutely kill everybody in my weight class and like waiting for them to lift. So I knew what I would have to lift next and do. And like that's when I started setting personal records in competition. And like my best clean at that point was one weight. And I think I did 15 pounds more, which, is a lot to set a 15-pound personal record inside of a competition. And like, I remember coming off of that and I ended up missing the jerk, but I made the clean. And my coach was like, you can see him. He was like, smile ear to ear because he was like, you finally learned how to compete. And it's such a completely different skill set than working out in the gym with your buddies and you're messing around and the music's on versus when it's dead quiet. Everybody's looking at you. There's three officials in front of you, and you have to complete the lift. And you're worried about, what do I look like? Do I look like an idiot? What are people going to think? What are the officials going to think? Am I? And all these things are going through your head. And the only thing that matters was the weight. Translate that to CFP. And I'll tell you, with an exam, I've never had this issue, but I had it in that arena. I really struggled with it. When it comes to an exam, for whatever reason, the lights go on, and that's when I'm at my best.
Yeah. Well, all of a sudden, like a lot of times when the lights go on, like, you practice, you repetition, you're doing all the same stuff. And like, I'm saying this in regards to CFP, but that can apply to literally anything.
Anything.
Sports, um, a speech that you were giving, whatever, a
Running
presentation that
a running your practice, you know.
running your like whatever, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is like that you do, they like you do in the side on when you're practicing, no pun intended, to
All right.
do it. It's all great, and I mean, I'll analogize it to swinging a golf club. Like, I'm like the absolute classic. Like, I'm a great, great player on the range. I look like a fucking stud hitting the ball. And like, I'm not as good on the course as I am on the range. And that's just a factor of like, that's complete, like, that's all here. And that's a lot of people. Like, so it's not like it's like, oh, that I'm not saying that's unique to me, but that's a lot of people with a lot of things. Once you actually get into the competition or into the game or into whatever the actual arena is, and the lights come on and the game starts and the whistle blows, it's a completely different game speed. It's a completely different environment. Your mindset is completely different. And sometimes you get through it and you perform and you achieve, and sometimes you completely fold.
Mhm.
And uh, you know, it happens to people, it's normal,
Yeah,
and it is what it is.
it's extremely normal. And the one thing is, you should never be embarrassed about it. I know that it might feel embarrassing, but it really isn't, because it is a completely different skill set, and you have to practice that skill set like anything else. And the more you practice it, the more comfortable you're going to be with it. But the hard part about it, it's very uncomfortable to practice it. It's just
Yeah,
not something that anybody wants to particularly practice, because it is hard. Now, I will tell you, there's a lot of reasons why this happens. And I'll tell you one of them that happens, David, is imposter syndrome. You ever hear of this?
of course.
Okay. So, and I will tell you, like, a lot of us, and I used to see this with guys when we were practicing. They would be fucking geniuses, building portfolios, coming up with solutions. You'd put them in front of a client that had $2 million, and they'd start stuttering. Uh, and they look like an idiot. And they were the best guy for the job, too. Like, they were going to be in no better hands than the hands of that person. And sometimes the gravity of the exam, you start to feel it, and you start to feel it the day before the exam, literally the worst possible time. And you start to go, yeah, I know I passed those quizzes, but I'm not ready. Oh my God, this is too much. I can't do this.
Like, am I
I,
really, really like, do I really know it? Or am
yeah,
I just a complete fraud
yeah,
thinking I do? And I'm about to get smacked once I
right.
step on the field.
Exactly. And I feel like a complete fraud. Like, everything that I did thus far was just lucky. Like, I got lucky
Yeah.
on all those quizzes. I got lucky on all those tests. I got lucky on all the mocks. I just got lucky. And if they change things, oh my God, I'm so screwed. I'm so screwed. I'm so screwed.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people say it, like, just to relate it to the industry, that a lot of people say it about a young advisor. Cause like, a lot of people that have, any type of money worth managing, they're probably gonna relatively often like trust somebody with gray hair, a little bit older, that has a lot of experience in the industry. And they say a lot of young advisors that are like my age, like lower 30s and younger, sometimes have this imposter syndrome.
Oh my God, dude. You know what a client one time said to me? He ended up signing the paperwork. He goes, how old are you, Joe? And I was like 25 at that point. I go, 25. He goes, I have fucking socks that are older than you. And I was like, oh,
Right. And you probably at that point felt like, well, shit, how is this guy gonna trust? Is this guy really trust me when he just said something like that? And
I
that's
said,
not to say that like I that's not to say that younger people are not competent and can't do the job, but there is a certain imposter syndrome, and it may not even be from that person. It may be from other people that are kind of forcing that onto them.
right.
But
Yeah,
it's definitely prevalent in our industry.
correct. And if you're not ready for those, and the thing is like, you know, you can rehearse and you can practice. And the reality of it is that there's nothing that's going to prepare you for a client turning around and going, yeah, I have socks that are older than you. And I remember I went on the fly, like, and I turned it into a joke. And I think that's honestly why I ended up getting the account was I showed him that I could hang with him. Right. I go, and I don't remember. I said something real like stupid or sly, or it was just like, I was like, I highly suggest you throw out those socks and get yourselves a fresh pair of one that
Well, it's
have
like in
that
pursuit,
have
like
young skin and beautiful
yeah,
hair.
it's like Will Smith
Yeah.
in Pursuit of Happiness. He walks into the interview, he's all got all paint all over himself,
Mhm.
and on his shirt, his shirt's like ripped, it's got paint stains on it. And the guy interviewing him says, what would you say if if someone showed up into an interview with the shirt that you have on and I hired him? And I don't know if you've seen the movie, but do you remember
Yeah.
what Will Smith said back?
I remember he said something really smart, but I can't remember what he said.
He said, well, he must have had on some really nice pants.
Yeah, brilliant,
That's my
right?
favorite part of the movie.
A brilliant line too, right? But that's the point is that, you know, you have to learn how to take the test. You have to learn how to be within yourself. And this is the point of, when we do mock exams, and you remember this, Dave, what I tell you, mock exams, go some simulate the exam as best as you can. Time it. Eat your lunch the same way because if that day feels different than the mock exam, you're going to get rattled.
Yeah,
You're
no,
going to get rattled.
the lights are gonna be that much brighter. If you can prep yourself, whether it's via a very serious simulated mock exam, or maybe it's now the second or third time that you're taking this exam, or you've taken the FINRA exams before, so you know what it's like to go to the center and have the pressure on you. You can dim the lights a little bit.
Right.
But if you have no experience and you're going in cold, the lights are going to be very, very, very bright.
And I'll tell you, one student said to me, he goes, I said to him, first thing I said to him, I said, how was the test? And he goes, felt like another day at the office. I go, oh, music to my ears because that's exactly what we're hoping for. But he really took the mock seriously. He did not mess around. Like he lives in New Jersey. He went somewhere separate. He took that process very seriously. But like I've said to you guys on multiple videos, if you're taking your mock exam in your kitchen with your underwear on, you're never going to get the sense of the exam. And then exam day is going to feel different because you're going to be like, I got pants on now. This feels different. It's going to rattle you. And you think it's stupid. It's not stupid because if you don't do that actual process where you feel the pressure of the exam, you feel that anxiety of a clock ticking against you, you feel that pressure of having to read the question on a screen in a foreign room, you're never really going to understand what that then exam day feels completely different and you're already on edge. So anything is going to topple you over. So, as always, guys, we hope that you found this video helpful. With any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out to David or myself, and we will see you on the next episode.